What if I told you that right now, as you're watching this video, there are 7 animals silently destroying one of America's biggest states? We're talking about Texas, the land of cowboys, barbecue, and everything bigger. But these creatures aren't your typical Texas wildlife. They're invaders, and they're causing billions of dollars in damage every single year. The Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, the people whose job it is to protect Texas's natural beauty, have identified these 7 species as such a threat that they're encouraging Texans to help control them. And when wildlife experts are asking for public help, you know the situation is serious. So, which animals made the list? Some might surprise you, others might give you nightmares. And one of them is so beautiful that people actually keep them as pets, not knowing they're ecological disasters waiting to happen. Coming in at number 7, we have what might look like just another blackbird, the European starling. Now, I know what you're thinking. Really? A little bird made the most dangerous list? But don't let their size fool you. European starlings are in America because of Shakespeare. Back in 1890, a guy named Eugene Schieffelin thought it would be cool to bring every bird mentioned in Shakespeare's plays to America. So he released 60 starlings in New York's Central Park. Today, there are over 200 million of these birds across North America. But why are they such a problem in Texas? Well, imagine you're a native Texas bird, like a beautiful eastern bluebird or a red-headed woodpecker. You've found the perfect tree hole to build your nest and raise your babies. But then these starlings show up and basically say, "This is mine now." They kick out the native birds and take over their homes. And it gets worse. These birds travel in massive flocks. We're talking thousands of birds at once. And they descend on farms like a scene from a horror movie. They can destroy entire crops of grains and fruits, costing farmers millions of dollars every year. Plus, they're actually dangerous to humans too. Large flocks of starlings near airports can cause plane crashes. Remember the miracle on the Hudson when Captain Sully landed a plane in the Hudson River? That was caused by birds getting sucked into the engines. The good news? Since they're not protected by federal law in the US, wildlife managers can control them by removing their nests and using special techniques to scare them away from farms and airports. But with 200 million of them out there, it's like trying to empty an ocean with a bucket. At number 6, we have something that looks innocent, but is actually a slow-moving disaster: apple snails. These aren't your garden variety snails. These are South American invaders that are about to make you never look at a snail the same way again.
First off, these things are huge for snails. We're talking about snails the size of tennis balls.
But these snails are like nature's vacuum cleaners, but in the worst possible way. They eat aquatic plants like they're at an all-you-can-eat buffet. And when I say eat, I mean they devour everything. They can completely strip a pond or wetland of all its vegetation. Now, Texas grows a lot of rice, and that rice needs water. Apple snails love rice fields because they're like giant, perfectly maintained snail restaurants. In Hawaii, these snails have already caused massive damage to rice crops. Texas officials are terrified that the same thing could happen here. And if destroying crops wasn't bad enough, these snails also carry parasites that can make humans seriously sick. We're talking about parasites that can cause a disease called rat lungworm, which can lead to meningitis. But wait, there's more. Female apple snails lay their eggs above the waterline on plants and structures, and these egg clusters look like bright pink or orange bubbles. One snail can lay thousands of eggs, and those eggs hatch into thousands more snails. It's like a snail population explosion. The worst part? Many of these snails are in Texas because people bought them for their aquariums and then released them into local waters when they got tired of them. It's a classic case of seemed like a good idea at the time that turned into an ecological nightmare. Texas now prohibits releasing aquarium snails into natural waters, and they're asking people to report sightings and help remove egg clusters. Because once these snails establish themselves in a water system, they're incredibly difficult to get rid of. Number 5 on our list is a tiny creature that's causing massive problems: the zebra mussel. These little striped shellfish might look harmless, but they're basically the termites of the water world, except they're way worse. Zebra mussels originally come from Western Asia, and they hitchhike to America in the ballast water of ships. Think of ballast water like the weight that keeps ships balanced. Ships take on water in one port and release it in another. And sometimes that water is full of unwanted passengers. These mussels are relatively new to Texas, but they're spreading fast. And when I say fast, I mean these things make rabbits look slow at reproducing. A single female zebra mussel can produce up to 1 million babies in a single year. Let that sink in. 1 million offspring from one mussel. But here's where zebra mussels become a real-world problem for humans. These little guys love to attach themselves to hard surfaces underwater. Sounds harmless, right? Wrong. They clog up pipes, pumps, and valves in water treatment plants, but they're so good at filtering that they remove too much. They take away the microscopic food that native fish and other water creatures need to survive. At number 4, we have an animal that has probably ruined more Texas picnics than bad weather: red imported fire ants. If you've ever been to Texas, you've probably heard horror stories about these tiny terrorists. And trust me, the stories are all true. These ants aren't from Texas, they're from South America, and they arrived in the US by accident in the 1930s. They came in soil shipments to Mobile, Alabama, and since then, they've conquered the entire southern United States, like a tiny army with a really bad attitude. But what makes these ants so successful? First, they're incredibly aggressive. Most ants will try to avoid conflict, but fire ants, they see conflict as a fun hobby. They'll attack anything that disturbs their mound: humans, animals, even lawnmowers. Second, they're amazing at working together. When fire ants attack, they don't just bite, they coordinate their attack. Multiple ants will grab onto your skin with their jaws and then simultaneously inject venom with their stingers. It's like they have a battle plan. And their reproduction rate is absolutely insane. A single fire ant colony can have multiple queens, and each queen can lay up to 1,000 eggs per day. Coming in at number 3, we have an animal that looks like someone mixed a beaver with a giant rat and then made it really, really destructive. The nutria. Also known as river rats. First, let me help you picture these things. Nutria are about the size of a small dog, covered in grayish-brown fur, with big orange teeth and a long round tail. They look like beavers, but without the iconic flat tail. Instead, they have this long rat-like tail that immediately tells you something's not quite right about these creatures. Nutria were originally brought to the US for fur farming in the 1930s. People thought their soft, dense fur would make great coats and hats. But like many great ideas involving non-native animals, this one backfired spectacularly when nutria escaped from farms or were released into the wild. At number 2, we have what might be the most beautiful killer on our list: the lionfish. These stunning fish look like living artwork with their elaborate fins and striking patterns. But don't let their beauty fool you. They're aquatic assassins that are destroying marine ecosystems along the Texas coast. Lionfish are absolutely gorgeous creatures. But lionfish are from the Indo-Pacific region, thousands of miles away from Texas waters. They were first spotted in U.S. waters in 1985, probably released by aquarium owners who didn't know what they were unleashing. Since then, they've spread up the entire Atlantic coast and into the Gulf of Mexico like an underwater plague. Off the coast of Texas, lionfish have become so dominant that they make up at least 90% of the lionfish population in some areas. But wait, that doesn't make sense, does it? Let me clarify. They make up 90% of the invasive reef fish biomass, meaning they've basically taken over entire reef systems. The reason they're so successful is terrifying. They have virtually no predators in Atlantic and Gulf waters. In their native Indo-Pacific home, other fish have evolved alongside lionfish and know how to deal with them. But Atlantic fish have never seen anything like lionfish before. They don't know these beautiful creatures are deadly predators. And lionfish are incredibly smart hunters. They don't just chase down prey like most fish. They use cooperative hunting strategies. Multiple lionfish will work together to corner schools of small fish, then take turns feeding. It's like wolves of the sea, except they're more efficient. They can eat fish and invertebrates up to half their body length, and they're not picky eaters. Native fish, juvenile snappers, groupers, shrimp, crabs, if it fits in their mouth, it's dinner. This means they're directly competing with native predator fish and eating the babies of commercially important species. Because they have no natural predators and reproduce so quickly, lionfish can reach population densities 5 times higher than in their native range. Texas Parks and Wildlife has gotten creative in fighting lionfish. They encourage divers to spear them and report sightings. There are spearfishing tournaments where people compete to catch the most lionfish, and some restaurants have Eat the Invader programs where they serve lionfish as a way to reduce populations. Ironically, lionfish are actually quite tasty. They taste like a cross between grouper and snapper, so at least there's one positive aspect to this invasion. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. The #1 most destructive invasive species in Texas. The animal that's causing more ecological and economic damage than all the others combined. Feral hogs. Feral hogs are basically domestic pigs that have gone rogue. They're either escaped farm pigs or descendants of pigs that were intentionally released for hunting. Each generation that lives in the wild becomes more aggressive, more cunning, and more destructive than the last. And when domestic pigs go feral, they don't just change behaviorally, they physically transform too. Within a few generations, they develop longer snouts, thicker hair, straighter tails, and larger tusks. Feral hogs reproduce like it's their full-time job. A single sow can have 2 litters per year, with 4 to 12 piglets in each litter. Those piglets reach sexual maturity in just 6 months. At this rate, the agricultural damage these animals cause is absolutely staggering. Nationwide, feral hogs cause about $1.5 billion in agricultural damage every single year. In Texas alone, they're destroying hundreds of millions of dollars worth of crops annually. But they're not just eating crops, they're destroying them completely. Feral hogs use their powerful snouts to root through soil looking for food. The ecological damage is even worse than the agricultural impact. Feral hogs compete with native wildlife for food, destroy ground-nesting bird habitats, eat turtle eggs, kill young deer and other animals, and even attack livestock. They also cause severe soil erosion with their rooting behavior. When they tear up vegetation and soil structure, it leads to sediment runoff into streams and rivers, which pollutes water systems and destroys aquatic habitats. What did you think of today's countdown? Were you surprised by any of the species on our list? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Hit the notification bell to be notified of new uploads.